good to be live. Welcome, everyone, to the September 14th regular meeting of the Winston-Salem County Utility Commission. Greetings to all. Charles, welcome to your first official meeting. Glad
Thank
to
you
have
very much.
We look forward to putting you to work post haste. Ms. Glenn, may we do the call to order, please? Roll call, excuse me.
Well, hi. How's everybody this afternoon? Chairman Randall Tuttle.
Is present.
Vice Chair Wesley Curtis.
I'm here, present.
Commissioner Harold Day.
Present.
Commissioner Tom Griffin.
He is trying to call me. Mike Stover, can you give him a call, Mr. Griffin? Looks like he's on, but he's trying to call my cell too.
Okay.
Will do.
Commissioner Yvonne Hines. Present. Commissioner Yvonne Hines.
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Hugh Jernigan.
Present.
Commissioner Dwayne Long.
Present.
Commissioner Chris Parker.
Present.
Commissioner Donald Stewart. Commissioner Alan Younger.
Present.
And Commissioner Charles Wilson.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Courtney, do you want to begin with some announcements?
Yes. Good afternoon, commission members. And I'm glad I did want to also welcome Mr. Wilson to the commission. We were able to swear him in at a previous time. So now that we're not doing the live meetings, we were able to do that here in City Hall previously. So let me go ahead and let you know who all's on the call as far as staff. Got myself, Courtney Driver, the Utilities Director, Damon Duquesne, Assistant City Manager, Patrice Glenn, Recording Secretary, Mike Cuevesto, Deputy Director, Jan McHarg, Assistant Director, Michael Stover, Assistant Director, Bill Brewer, Water Treatment Plant Superintendent, Shane Chu Huffman, Capital Projects Engineer, Todd Lewis, as Senior Civil Engineer, Gail Kettler and Kyra Boyd, part of our communications team. We've got Jerry Bates with the Purchasing Director, Marilena Jensen Guthold, Assistant City Attorney, Kirk Bjorling, Real Estate Administrator, and Jakira Westbrook, Office of Business Inclusion and Advancement. I believe I have covered everyone that's on the phone. I'm sorry, we have Heather Curie, who is our budget analyst. She is also on the phone. I see that she's on the call as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. Let's see. Okay, everybody can see it? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. Okay, so today's agenda, our normal, I'll go over a few updates and announcements that I have, and then Bill Brewer is going to go over a water treatment overview. This will be the second series. I started last month. We're going to go over pretty much what we show in our City of Winston-Salem University presentation, where we're going to walk you through the department and at a high level and what we do. So I thought it'd be a good reminder of all the services that we provide. So Bill Brewer is here to do that. And then we've got our water and wastewater updates, the water and wastewater financial updates. Dan will go over the solid waste piece. Then we'll get to our agenda items, and if there's time, the CIP update. So just a reminder that we do have a planning and policy meeting September 16th, which is Wednesday at 9:30, and that will be via Zoom. We will be discussing the reinstituting our late fees and penalties and disconnects due to non-payment that we have suspended due to the executive orders. We will also be discussing some other planning and policy issues regarding hydrant meter fees. We've discussed that before. It was about a year ago when we made some updates to our cross-connection control program. And another small policy revisions that that we need to discuss regarding resale of water within our system. Wanted to update everyone on the utilities administration move. We are moving to a new space across the street in Bryce Stewart. One of your agenda items is discussing this move. It's a funding a construction contract. But we will be, the administrative group will be moving out of our space at the end of October. I think the move date is set for October 30th. That's the last Friday of the month. So for a period of time, we think the construction is going to last around 6 months. So we will be without a physical home for a little while, which is not a totally bad thing because we cannot work virtually. We will have some temporary space across in Bryce Stewart with the engineering department. They've been very kind to have some vacant cubicles that we're going to use just as a temporary place for us. So just know that that's going to happen. I did want to mention our New Wipes and Pipes campaign. I mentioned that last month that we were a finalist for eSource. It was eSource Utility Ad Awards contest. We were a finalist, and we found out that we did place second in that contest out of 500 entries over the United States and Canada. So I thought that was a really good job to our communications team, and wanted to mention that. Our virtual City of Winston-Salem University is this Thursday. It starts at 6, and I mentioned that a few minutes ago, but this is something that we do that the City of Winston-Salem does every year, and there's probably 20 class members that participate, maybe more, maybe 20 to 30 class members that apply and participate in this program. And Utilities always has one night. We typically hold that at the Thomas Water Treatment Plant and have a tour of the plant. We have some vehicles on display, which makes it very interesting to the class. And unfortunately, we can't do that this year, so it's going to have to be all virtual. So that's happening Thursday. The other thing I want to talk about, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Tuttle and Damon, but the City of Winston-Salem and the Utility Commission Equity Initiative. So everyone knows about some of the current racial tensions that we're facing within the country right now. And I've been discussing with Damon and Mr. Tuttle about how we proceed as a department, and obviously how the City of Winston-Salem proceeds as an organization. So I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Tuttle right now, and he can go into a little bit more detail about our discussions.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I'm excited to talk about this, and it was an outgrowth of both some of the conversations over the last couple of meetings relative to our big goals of MWBE, and then also Courtney had reached out to her team and her staff a couple of months ago relative to some diversity thoughts. And so Courtney and I, in the last month, have had probably 3 different conversations around not only just this concept, but what the words diversity and inclusivity and equity mean. And then simultaneously with some of the stuff that's going on within the city broadly, the city is thinking about forming, and Damon can talk about that in a little bit, an Office of Diversity, Inclusivity, and Equity. And so, but for the commission, I just wanted to give an update to the members and get a virtual head nod. We've never done we've done plenty of head nods. This is just a gentle agreement with the TAC, but it's hard to do that virtually. But the concept would be to look at our internal and external practices with an equity lens around it. And it could be HR policies, it could be rate setting, it could be provision of service, it could be spending, like this, what we typically get in with the goals. And Courtney and I brainstormed about the organization of this, and in general that there would be some commission members along with senior staff and other staff. And we'll lean on council to see if this could be a subset of the Planning and Policy Committee, or does it need to be something standalone? So initially, I think the thought was that this was more of a task force concept, and then that makes you think that it's a definitive start and end and a task force formed around some short-term goal, but this is much more of a longer-term effort. And so anyway, we just wanted to update the commission on some of the thoughts. I don't know if Damon has anything to add on the city's perspective, and then maybe we could entertain any questions from commission members.
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman Tuttle. Good afternoon to you and all the commissioners and the staff. So from a broader city perspective, we're working diligently, but I won't say quickly, on developing an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and what that will look like as far as staffing and those sorts of things. And I think what the chairman and Courtney have discussed and proposed is absolutely appropriate. I mean, to have commissioners involved in especially the policy decisions and how those policies have developed over time would be important to look at, and how we serve our community. Does the way we serve our community today work based on the historical development of those policies and procedures? In addition to that, we have a lot of things that we'd like to do for our entire employee base. And so the commission's in this kind of oddball situation where you make a lot of financial decisions and you set policy for a department, but those employees do not report to you directly. They report to the city manager through Courtney and myself. And so we want to make sure that any message or anything that comes out or anything that we're doing is consistent across the entire city. And I'm sure some or all of you have been following, developments or statements made regarding the fire department. And that project is underway. The consultants were here on Friday. I think we're going to get a good product out of that. And what we're doing as part of that project is we have an individual from our Office of Performance and Accountability, internal audit specifically, who is basically being trained by the consultants to do some of the modules that they're doing so we can carry these efforts forward across all city departments. There may be an opportunity, and Courtney and I will work out any details to maybe have the utility add a position that could focus their efforts with the subgroup to the Planning and Policy Committee that would liaison with the citywide efforts. And that way we bring more resources to bear and we just get that much more input and can be that much more successful. I think that about covers my comments. Of course, welcome any questions anyone may have.
And let me add one more thought, is that this is hard and but meaningful work. And the concept probably would be that we would hire some professional guidance to guide the commission along these efforts. So anyway, that was the final point. So any questions or thoughts, concerns, yay or nay, or positive thoughts around the concept?
I think it's a great start.
Thank you, Wesley.
Yeah, and so do I. Of course, there are always issues versus equity versus equality. Mm-hmm. And I think that should be, I'm sure that will be discussed as you get into the round table, but thank you very much. I think it's essential, and kudos to those of you who are making that a priority.
Wonderful.
And this is Alan Younger. I presume that the conversations that we had during our last meeting regarding MWBE requirements or goals would be wrapped into this conversation somehow.
Yes, and I think, well, Damon, why don't you also address some of the thoughts around the Citizens Review Committee at this time?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioner Younger. So what we haven't done traditionally with utility projects is when there is, as far as goal setting and then reviewing good faith efforts, and then on the very end of the project, reviewing performance regarding MWBE goals, we have not taken utility contracts historically to the Citizens Advisory Council, in addition to the internal MWBE committee. So we're gonna start doing that moving forward. It only applies to projects that either don't meet goals, or if there's an issue on the back end, whether they fail to meet the goals when the final numbers come in. But we feel that that's important to give the commission the reassurance that this has not only been reviewed by the staff, but it also went to a citizen board who reviewed it as well and gave either their blessing or sent it back to the committee for revision. So that we're going to start that immediately moving forward.
And Alan, let me add on to give Damon and Courtney a little credit, is that yes, the answer is let's wrap it into this new, call it committee, equity committee. But also what I was getting ready to give Damon and Courtney credit for is let's don't just check the box and like we've complied with everything. Let's look at some of our needs and how can we encourage local MWB contractors to fulfill those needs. I don't think anybody on the commission wants to let me phrase it a different way. Rather than set goals and fail to meet those goals, let's set realistic goals and then figure out how our local workforce can be certified and qualified to do the right work. Does that make sense? That's more of a, I'm trying to say more proactive than reactive, but I'm not doing a good job of saying that.
I would add to that, Chairman, that what we're attempting to do in all the subjects that we're discussing right now is to build legacy programs. I think if you look at the sinusoidal wave of awareness of these issues over the course of American history, that's unacceptable. We just continue along this path of up and down and up and down, and we've never built these legacy programs. So, Mr. Younger, I may reach out to you. I have some thoughts. If you take what your utility field operations does, is we take young men and women with really little to no experience. They have a driver's license and a high school diploma, and we literally can turn them into utility contractors. The commission runs a $15 million construction company down there, actually more than 15 million. And I can't think of maybe but a handful of employees over my 10 years here who've come in with really any serious experience. So if we could start to do or find a way to partner with the community to start building that sort of relationship where we can help to train local disadvantaged businesses, I think that would be a pretty good project. And there's lots of partners who could assist. I'm already working with Forsyth Tech on some things internally. I'm sure they would be more than happy to expand those. We've taken some models from Stanley County and other places that we're working on to try and assist in those efforts. So the more contractors that are available, the higher our goals can be, the higher our goals can be set. And then we can start to make a legacy difference instead of just a difference in one contract at a time.
Other commission member thoughts? I'm at least 3 people have given me the thumbs up, so I'm presuming at least 3 have head nods affirmative to this. I see some other thumbs up. Thank you. But this is also, it's feel free to ask some of the tough questions that you might not be in full agreement of. This is the time. Chris, do I see you trying to unmute?
Yes, let me see.
There you are.
I wasn't trying to unmute. I was trying to find the other device.
Then you must have been talking to yourself because, dang it, where can I give that virtual thumbs up? Well done, Chris. He now knows how to use the Zoom emojis better than anyone.
Oh, I just want to say I appreciate what you're doing, and I think it's well worth it. For one, thank you.
Okay. Courtney, you want to, And one other thing, just on a personal note, I'll switch to my phone about 2:15 to 2:20, just to let you know if you see my screen go blank. I'll still be with you though.
Okay.
Courtney?
Okay, perfect, thanks. All right, well, let's keep moving on. So next is water treatment overview, and I'm gonna turn it over to Bill. Bill, I'll go through the slides. If just let me know if you're ready.
Okay, thanks for having me, everybody. I'm happy to be here this afternoon. I am going to turn my video off because I've got to turn the other direction to actually see the screen. And I'm of that age that I'm blind as a bat of anything 10 feet in front of me, so I've got to have my reading glasses on. So I apologize for that, but I'll be with you at the end of the presentation if you have any questions. And certainly if you have any questions while I'm going along, please interrupt me and ask. I would certainly welcome them. Okay.
Let's see, sorry.
That's all right. So some of you may have already seen this presentation. Here in Winston-Salem, we actually have two sources of water. We have the Yadkin River and Salem Lake. We have two intakes on the Yadkin, one close to Enon, which is near the Swan water plant, and the other is down at Idols, which has been around for quite some time. Also, the city of Winston-Salem controls the top 30 feet of WCurt Reservoir. It's about an 11 billion gallon reservoir, and it's located in Wilkes County, and we'll talk a little bit about the history and details of that in just a minute. We have 3 water plants with a combined treatment capacity of 91 MGD. That's million gallons per day. In fiscal year 2020, we averaged about 36.1 million gallons a day, which is right around 40% of our current capacity. That equates to approximately 13.2 billion gallons for the entire year, for the entire fiscal year 2020. So to treat 1 million gallons of water, it cost approximately $743. And if you're a math whiz, that comes out. If you're thinking of this in frugality, terms of frugality in bottled water, for the $1.50 that you spend for 1 bottle of water, we can supply you with about 2,000 gallons of water at your home. So just to kind of give you a sense of perspective of the service that we provide and the cost that we provide it at. In fiscal year 2021, that's this current fiscal year that we're in, we've budgeted about 10.44 million. And that's for the operation and maintenance of the 3 water plants, 7 distribution pump stations, and 14 tanks throughout the system. So I mentioned WCurt Reservoir. In 1960, when WCurt was being built, the city of Winston-Salem, Wilkes County, and the Army Corps of Engineers went in together on that project. And the city and Wilkes County actually paid to raise the operating level of that reservoir 30 feet for water supply purposes for Wilkes County and Winston-Salem. You know, city council and leadership at that time had the foresight and the vision to essentially secure our water resources into this century, which I think was a very forward-looking move. And we're reaping the benefits of that today. Now, the way that contract was structured is we didn't start actually paying for that until we called for the first official releases, which happened in 1970. And actually, we just completed the principal and interest payments for that project. I think it was last year. And we continue to pay for the operation and maintenance in a shared agreement with Wilkes County and the Army Corps of Engineers. This shows you where WCurt Reservoir is located in Wilkes County. And as you can see, it traverses almost 2 to 3 other counties before it gets to Forsyth County. Now, as long as I've been here, I came to the city in February of 2001. And at that time, we were going through a historic drought. And the flow of the river at Enon, which is normally around 3,000 CFS, was down to less than 700 CFS. And we asked for a test release from WCurt just to see how long it would take to get to our intakes. And it took about 48 hours for us to see the flow increase once it was released from WCurt. You can go ahead and advance the slide, please, Courtney. So once it reaches Forsyth County, this is a general overview of our system. You can see the 3 water plants. There are 2 of them on the western side of the county, and then Thomas, which is in essentially the middle of the city. It's over next to Winston-Salem State, where 40 intersects with Highway 52. This also shows the 7 different pump stations and the 14 different tanks that we use to meet demand and move water around 5 different pressure zones throughout our system. We supply water to Yadkin County to the west. We also have interconnects to our north. We have an interconnected agreement with King, although we haven't sold them water yet. They're working on a pump station, and until that's done, that contract probably won't be active. We sell water to the north to Stokes Water and Sewer Authority. We also sell to Stokesdale, which is northeast. We sell to Greensboro to the east, and we also sell to Davidson Water in the southeast. So the Pat Swan water plant was commissioned in July 2004. As I mentioned, from our challenge in Winston has always been, it hasn't been from the supply side, it's always been from the production side. In the 80s and 90s, we had a lot of industrial growth and consumption, water consumption in Winston-Salem. That triggered the need to start planning for future capacity, which resulted in the Swan water plant being built. During the 90s, that planning and permitting started, and then the construction started in 2000. It was completed in 2004. It included 4 different projects. One was the dam and intake and raw water pump station, the transmission main to get the water to the water plant itself, and then the distribution line from the water plant into the system. So the Swan is a conventional water plant. It's got 25 million gallon day capacity. And as I mentioned, it gets water from the Yadkin River. The Nielsen plant is our largest facility. It's a 48 MGD plant. The original plant was a 24 million gallon a day plant, and it was being constructed around the same time that WCurt was being built, and that contract was being let between Wilkes County, the Corps of Engineers, and the city. That portion of the plant is to the left in this picture. It's the main building. And in 1984 and 88, a 12 million gallon addition was made in each of those years to bring the ultimate capacity up to 48 million gallons. The Thomas plant is our only dual source plant. It can take water from the Nielsen reservoirs via an 11-mile raw water transmission main that runs across town. It can also take water from Salem Lake in the Salem Lake Dam intake. The original plant was built around the turn of the or I guess it would be the 20th century. And it, for the longest time, supplied Winston-Salem's water until the Nielsen plant was built. In 2007, we started evaluating the long-term plan for Thomas, and that resulted in basically demolishing the old plant and building a new facility in its place. So that was commissioned in 2011, and the ultimate capacity is 18 MGD. So one term you've heard me mention is conventional water plants, and all three of our plants are conventional water plants. That essentially means they use the exact same process. The size of the tanks and the basins may change a little bit, but the process is exactly the same. And it is composed of coagulation, which is just the addition of a chemical that causes particles in the water to stick together, a coagulant. Flocculation, which is a slow mixing, which allows those particles to get larger. And then sedimentation, which are large basins that allow those particles to settle out. And then filtration, which captures any particles that don't settle out in the process. After that, we add chemicals. We add fluoride to prevent dental caries or cavities. We add caustic to adjust pH. We add chlorine to disinfect. I'm sure I'm missing something, but I'm not. Zinc orthophosphate, which is a corrosion inhibitor. It works in conjunction with the caustic to adjust pH. The caustic gets the pH in the proper range for the corrosion inhibitor to work, and that prevents lead and copper from leaching in the pipes. Now, when we talk about conventional treatment, we talk about a multi-barrier approach. In other words, we don't rely on any one of these parts of the process. We rely on all of them working and being optimized together in order to properly treat water. And by doing that, we maximize the reduction of harmful contaminants and also bacteria that can cause harm, E. coli and other waterborne bacteria that have caused problems in the past, like cholera and that type of thing, typhoid. Each of our plants are continuously monitoring water quality throughout all parts of the process. You know, as you see in the report that Courtney gives you every month, I mean, we conduct thousands of tests every month. And I always tell the folks in the city of Winston-Salem University that, you know, from a regulatory perspective, we are constantly monitoring our process and we are constantly testing the quality of our product because we're regulated under the Safe Drinking Water Act. Bottled water companies are regulated under the Food and Drug Administration, which is a completely different set of regulations, and their testing requirements are completely different. So that's another large difference between what we do and what you get if you purchase bottled water. Also, we have very stringent reporting requirements. Every year we publish what we find in our water, and if depending on the contaminant, if it's of immediate concern enough, we will have to notify the public within 24 hours. So if we find something detrimental in the water, you can be rest assured that, you know, based on the severity, that notice will be appropriate. It'll either be 24 hours, 30 days, or 1 year, depending on whether it's a tier 1, 2, or 3 contaminant. Yep, and once you get past the water treatment plants, you know, as I mentioned, we have pump stations and tanks throughout the system, and the tanks, they have three basic functions. They're for fire protection, they maintain system pressure, and then they provide storage so that we can meet the peaks and valleys of demand throughout the day. And that is essentially the water system at a very high level. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them.
I don't have a question, but I did want to bring up that for the testing, or water quality testing's done, the requirements that are done, we far exceed the requirements that we're required to do too, which I think is a really good thing. We test a lot more than we have to.
That is correct, and we're required, just from a turbidity perspective alone, we're required to maintain a 0.3 95% of the time. We maintain less than a 0.1 virtually 100% of the time.
Bill, the picture that's shown here, the intake, is that idles?
No, sir, that is actually the Swan raw water pump station dam and intake.
Bill, where does the bottled water get their water to process from, and how much more strenuous is theirs FDA under their guidelines versus ours?
Well, their water can be our water, just filtered. It really depends. You have to really pay attention to the labeling and what the source is. Some of it is spring water, some of it is well water, some of it is filtered or purified tap water. And the way their process works is they test a group of samples from a lot. You know, they may have 1,000 bottles of water, for instance, and they'll be required to test a certain percentage of them. Whereas our product, we have to continuously test. We have to continuously monitor, you know, every filter in our process. And there are certain phases in our process that the state says that we have to monitor continuously for different things. So that's the main difference is, I think, from my perspective, our quality control is much tighter and more continuous than what you would see in an FDA controlled situation.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions for Bill before we move on? Well, thank you, Bill. Bill's definitely our expert when it comes to water treatment, so we appreciate everything he does for us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so, does somebody else have something?
I was just thanking Bill. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Mike Stover is going to present to us next our normal water and wastewater updates.
Thank you, Bill, and good afternoon, everybody. For the month of August, we issued, well, so far this fiscal year, calendar year, we've issued 32 conveyance permits for a total value of $3.2 million. And this is the breakdown of water and sewer mileage based on this permit. 7.5 miles of water mains have been permitted. 5.8 miles of sewer mains have been permitted so far this year. This is the rainfall chart. There's no county in North Carolina under drought conditions right now. For the month of August, we received 6.59 inches of rain, which is almost double the monthly average for August. You can tell we're above what we were last year. this time of the year, and about in line where we were in 2018, which was one of the wettest years on record. Average production for August of 2020 was down from last year. We produced 37.1 million gallons per day, which is about a 7.7% decrease over last year. As you can tell, we did receive 6.6 inches of rain. The average over the past 13 years is 4.4 inches. Fiscal year to date flow totals are down slightly, even below the 5-year average. Total production was 2,425 million gallons. And then, as Bill mentioned earlier, our 3 water plants, they continuously sample. They've taken almost 27,000 samples for the month of August. And then we fielded 45 water quality calls, and then we've had 0 violations. Collection system update. We have not received the reports for June, July, or August quite yet. We did get the May report. We had 2 notice of violations. Both of those we expect to intend to enforce letters on. We have not received the civil penalty letters associated with those 2 NOVs, but once we do, we will follow back up with the next update. Here's the SSO count per 100 miles. We're still on track to have a good year. We're just slightly above where we were last year, significantly below where we were in 2019. Our goal for the entire year, or really the entire program, is 2 SSOs per 100 miles. Last year we finished out slightly above 4, which is still really good. It was the lowest year on record. Here's our SSO counts by cause. We had 4 for the month of August. 3 of those were O&M related, fats, oils, and grease, roots or debris, and then we had 1 spill caused by a contractor on North Mill Creek project. They took an excavator and accidentally punctured the temporary force main on the bypass system. And then I believe this is the last one. This is cleaning productivity. We are almost at our 20% cleaning goal for the year. We're well above our 10% permit requirement. The good news with this slide, you can tell that the blue is our in-house crews, and the black is our contracting crews. Our in-house crews alone are right now meeting our 10% cleaning requirement, which is awesome. Any questions for the water and sewer update? Thank you.
I will say that's a great report. It's good to see that our own labor force is getting that, at least that 10% line. That's great.
I agree. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mike Corvesto is going to give our financial updates regarding water and sewer.
All right. Thank you, Courtney. Good afternoon, Commission members. Given the pandemic and the continuing conversation about its impacts, we wanted to start sharing how we're doing with spending related to the operating budget for the new fiscal year. On this chart in front of you, the light blue shaded area is the current year budget. The red bars are last year's cumulative actual expenditures, and the blue bars are this year's cumulative expenditures. Actual expenditures for the first 2 months of FY21 are slightly lower than FY20 and under the budgeted amounts for FY21. And we'll continue to show you this as the fiscal year progresses, but want to keep that on your radar. Next, we'll look at the revenues. This chart is similar, but shows our billed revenues, which are higher through the first 2 months of the year compared to last year and the budget. It is early, and we'll continue to monitor this, but it is positive news so far to see that what we're billing for is higher than last year and higher than the budget at this time.
We do want to be, go ahead. Sorry.
Mike, if I could ask,
Yes,
I was thinking that our water production was down. So how are revenues up?
Well, so if the production is down this month, there is a 30 to 60 day delay typically. So we may see that impact us here later in September and October. So that's one of the things that we'll continue to monitor. But one of the things that we've seen so far early this year is that the system development fee revenue is trending higher than it was last year. So that's something that we'll continue to keep an eye on as well.
Yes, that's exactly what I was getting ready to mention, Mr. Parker, is that that 7.7 decrease this August compared to last August is something that is obviously a concern. We're going to monitor that closely, that, could impact the revenues in the next couple of months.
Okay, so we've been updating you all on the revenue impacts of COVID-19. We've been talking about the governor's executive orders, and we've been reporting this information. So from April 1st through August 31st, we've waived a little over $1.6 million in late fees and penalties. Just for reference, about $665,000 of that is in the current fiscal year. We currently have over 14,000 past due accounts, which is holding steady from month to month from July and August, and a total of just about $3.6 million in past due billings compared to $1.9 million at the same time last fiscal year. The past due billing amount increased about $118,000 from July. Our delinquency rate is 24%. Compared to 9% at this time last year. And we're going to talk more about this during the Planning and Policy Committee meeting on Wednesday, provide some more additional information and context, and some information about what some of our peer utilities have also been doing over this time and how they've been reacting.
Mike, I have a question. If you can go back to the previous slide. I know we can probably guess, but do we have any knowledge of the reasons for the high number of past due accounts?
Well, I think part of it is due to folks not being able to pay their bills for whatever reason during the pandemic.
I mean, I know we can guess that. I just wondered if you had heard anything more specific.
Not exactly. We've heard from some customers, and we've been working on some payment plans and directing them to local nonprofits to help them find ways to help pay their bills.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir. So, any other questions? Turn it over to Jan McCard for the solid waste update.
Thank you, Mike and Courtney. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start with a tonnage update for Haynes Mill Road landfill. First 2 months of the year through the month of August, we've taken in 47,000 tons, just over 47,000, which puts us a little bit behind where we were last year, but ahead of the budget, if you look at a straight line estimate of the budget. If you look at this on a monthly basis, we saw a big decrease in tonnage in August, which is not what we would have expected in a typical year. You can see from the red line where we have the monthly and seasonal variation built into the budget that normally August would have been a strong month for actually the most strong of the year. So it's a little bit unexpected that we would have such a drop in August. A little bit more on that later, but first I want to show you the tonnage from the construction and demolition stream at Old Salisbury Road landfill. That is decreased even further. We've taken in just over 7,000 tons, and that puts us significantly behind last year at this time, and also below the straight line budget for that facility. So given all that, we want to remind you that the budget for the current year, FY21, was prepared prior to, it was prepared based on the trends we were seeing prior to the pandemic. Tonnage had been increasing pretty steadily in recent years. So the budget is based on that, which means we could be in a situation where we don't meet our budget targets this year. We haven't seen that happen in recent years. So we will be carefully tracking tonnage, revenues, and expenses for you and bringing you some additional data in future months. But some things we've identified in the first couple of months of the year, the decrease is in the large commercial haulers. Notably, the top 4 commercial haulers are decreased relative to last year, same period. And we are seeing some of the difference being made up from residential customers and some of the smaller haulers, which maybe is not, it's not so unexpected given the situation in the world today. The commercial sector has slowed down, they're generating less waste, but more people are staying home and generating more waste in the residential stream. One other thing to note, though, is that the number of free disposal permits that we issue to the residents of the city of Winston-Salem has increased dramatically. If you look at the bar chart, the blue bars show you the permits that were issued last summer, June, July, and August of 2019, and we averaged 220 permits per month last year. So this year we're averaging over 600, and in August alone we issued 778 permits. Now this is waste that will be coming into our system with no revenue associated with it. Although we should say that these are the permits that have been issued and not necessarily will they all be used. So given all that, as I said, we'll be bringing you more detailed tracking data than we have in the past. In the past, we've mostly exceeded our budget targets. So we just track tonnage for you because revenue always correlates with tonnage. We've got some unique things going on this year. So we'll be bringing you more data, either on a monthly or quarterly basis, whatever the situation requires.
Jan,
yes.
Who are these free permits issued to? What type of?
All residents of the city of Winston-Salem are eligible for 2 free disposal trips each year. So the one permit is a card that gets mailed out, and you can use it twice for a flat rate trip, which is a smaller vehicle.
And this is for the city people or county as well?
Yes, residents of the city of Winston-Salem.
Okay. So that can be used at the Salisbury and the Haynes Mill, or?
Yes, they could, or yard waste if you chose to. Yes, okay. They could be used at any of our facilities. And that's a program that's been in place for a number of years, predates me and probably most people involved in this call. But we have seen this large increase, so I wanted to point that out.
Probably people are cleaning out more too.
Exactly, yes, yes. Well, and there have been some changes in the collection routes on that city sanitation runs.
Okay.
So that may have contributed as well. Sure. Anything else I can answer?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll, Mike Cuevesta will go over the agenda items.
Okay, thank you, Courtney. We will start with the operations item, which is item number 2, consideration of a resolution authorizing execution of various agreements regarding proposed water improvements to be installed within various developments. This month we have 4 developer agreements with a total of $358,026 for water. There are no requests for sewer improvements this month. We did want to note that the developer for the Shore Road water line extension will be eligible for a refund in the estimated amount of $14,008.29 to cover the cost of the oversized water main to be installed in Shore Road, which will serve the Chandler Point subdivision, which only requires an 8-inch water main. A larger 12-inch water main was installed to allow for future connection to an existing 12-inch water main located to the west of this development. Moving on to the finance items, item number 3, This consideration of a resolution requesting that the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem authorize the quit-claim abandonment of sewer main infrastructure and related easements for property associated with the South Mill Creek Outfall Rehabilitation Project. On June 12, 2017, the Commission authorized acquisition of multiple easement types totaling $17,500 on a property related to the project. The owners of this project agreed to forego the payment of the $17,500 on the condition that the existing easements located on their property would be abandoned at the completion of the project. This was a practical financial decision that was agreed to since the old easements would no longer be needed in the future. The project has now been completed and the easements for abandonment have been surveyed. Staff recommends approval. Item 4 is consideration of a resolution authorizing funding for the Bryce A. Stewart renovations project. Bids were received August 18, 2020 by the Purchasing Department for the Bryce A. Stewart renovations project. Renovations to the second and third floors of the building are needed to relocate the Utilities Department, City of Winston-Salem City Council, and the Planning Department. The second floor renovations to relocate utility staff will be funded by Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities, and the third floor renovations to relocate the Planning Department will be funded by the City of Winston-Salem. The scope of work includes partial interior demolition and adding new walls, doors, lighting, finishes, and modifications to the HVAC and electrical systems. 7 bids were received, with K&A Contracting LLC coming in as the low bidder at $498,700.65 for the entire project, which includes a 5% contingency allowance. K&A Contracting LLC has agreed to subcontract goals other than those established for this project. Therefore, pursuant to the city's MWBE policy, the internal MWBE committee and the citizens MWBE advisory committee met to review and consider all documentation of the bidder's good faith efforts. The Citizens Advisory Committee determined that the bidder did make the necessary good faith efforts to achieve the established project goals. The bid amount to complete the renovations to the second floor of the Bryce A. Stewart building is $360,520. It is recommended that the Utility Commission authorize funding of $360,520 for renovations to the second floor of the Bryce A. Stewart building, and the $18,026 be available for contingencies if needed. The engineer's estimate for all renovations for the project was $763,708. Questions on that item?
This is Charles Wilson. I've got a few. Hopefully I won't hold it up too much.
Okay.
Well, I guess for starters, it says the engineer's estimate is $763,000. Why such a gigantic delta between pretty much all the bids versus the engineer's estimate? That just seems strangely high.
Yeah, I can add.
Oh, Courtney.
And Mike, so you can jump in if I miss anything. But so, and it technically, I guess it's the architect's estimate versus the engineer's estimate. But originally, they just took a price per square footage to determine, based on recent bids and that type of work, to come up with an estimate. And we were very fortunate. I think we're seeing some of the competition in the bidding market right now. So, and we were fortunate that we received, not only really good bids, but seven good bids. So I think that's just the nature of the bidding environment right now, more so than anything.
Okay. So then it says the second floor is $360,520. So does that just mean there will be separate authorization for the third floor, maybe once the second floor is completed, or?
So there's
Oh, go ahead, Courtney.
Sorry. The third floor will be the Planning Department. That's their move, and so that is actually going to.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
So the actual construction contract is going to the City Council, and they're going to award the entire contract. And so our piece, that the Utility Commission, the utilities will be funding.
We just authorize as to our floor, I guess.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And I know this is part of a much larger conversation, and maybe I missed a lot of it at the last meeting. But as far as the MWBE goals, where it states the established goals for 21% MBE and 13% WBE, is that just blanket for projects, or does that vary depending on the scope or the nature of the project? I guess, how are those established is something I don't totally understand.
Yeah, so Jerry or Jakira, if you guys, since you're on the internal committee, if you can explain that, that'd be great.
Hello, Charles. This is Jakira. Like Courtney said, I'm with the MWBE division. And so goals are established on the MWB availability. That's how those goals are set.
Okay. And then, sorry, I'm just piling on question after question. But so the low bid on this one, KNA, they didn't meet the stated goals, but they demonstrated that they, put forth a good faith effort. But just suppose as a hypothetical, Magnolia Construction, the second lowest, suppose they had either met the MWBE goals or did better than 0 and 2%. Is there some kind of weighing of that, or is it just that if you meet the good faith effort, then that's as good as?
So it's based on upon the apparent lowest bidder. And so if the apparent lowest bidder at that time does not meet the goals, then they will demonstrate that they have made a good faith effort. And then if they don't, then we will go to the next apparent lowest bidder. So in that case, Magnolia would have been, I want to say they were the next. They would have then submitted their good faith effort, and we would have reviewed the good faith effort.
But if there's just a nominal difference between two GC's bids, then there's no sort of, totality of the circumstances or, thumb on the scale for the one who did better with MWBE goals. It's just who's the first lowest and did they make a good faith effort before you even go to the second?
Correct, because it's a hard bid.
Okay. Just want to make sure I understood that process.
I will, so none, I do believe, and Jerry and Jakira can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any of the 7 met the goals in their bid.
Okay. I mean, my questions were a little more general. I was just using the examples of the bidders on this project, but
correct.
I just wanted to understand that, how they got sort of broken down.
And another thing I will point out is that the minimum that the goals are 5 and 5, and if we go below if the internal committee looks at the goals and say, okay, well, there's not the available trades, there's not 5 and 5, then an item gets brought to the commission to set them below that. If that's the case for a project.
Okay.
Just FYI you might see something like that in the future. Yeah.
Okay. And to add to that, Charles, and so the MWBE internal committee has to set a verifiable goal. And so it can't be a goal based upon what the internal committee thinks should be allocated to MWBEs. It has to actually be verifiable based upon the number of MWBEs available.
Okay.
And if I could add one last thing, North Carolina general statutes dictate that an award for construction and repair must go to the lowest responsible bidder. So when Jakira said it was a hard bid, it's a construction repair contract, so we have no choice in the matter. And she termed it as the apparent lowest bidder. That's because they were the low bidder for that particular project, and we initiate all of our actions with KNA in this case because they were the apparent low bidder, which again is what dictates our process, who we go forward with as a recommendation. Should they have failed that good faith effort, then of course we move forward to the next apparent low bidder, and that's the process.
Right. I just didn't know if it was sort of step by step like that, or if there was some sort of totality of the circumstances taken in. I just wanted to see how it worked. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 5. Oh, go ahead.
Mike, if I could interrupt, Charles asked a lot of good questions. One question I have is Courtney just mentioned that we had 7 bidders and none of them met the MBE goals that we had established. So are we looking at that methodology? How did we get so off that none of the 7 contractors were able to meet what we thought they should have been able to?
So I would say when we set the goals that we are setting goals based upon the subcontracting opportunities that were identified in the goal estimate. But what happened, I would say that COVID-19 has definitely affected the workforce of those MWBE subcontractors. So some may be tied up on other projects. And so what we identified at those goals as and what we saw come in were drastically less than what we wanted to see.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Parker?
Yep.
Okay. Item number 5 on the finance agenda. Consideration of a resolution awarding a contract for sanitary sewer main line inspection and cleaning. Utilities field operations needs a vendor to perform closed circuit television inspection of sanitary sewer mains that have been recently cleaned. Work may also include the hydraulic and mechanical cleaning of sanitary sewer mains in order to restore capacity in the pipe. The purchasing department received 7 proposals for this work on August 19th of 2020. 2 proposals did not include all required forms and were deemed non-responsive. After the proposals were evaluated by a panel of city staff, it is recommended that a contract for sanitary sewer mainline inspection and cleaning be awarded to KRG Utility, Inc. in the annual amount of $399,900 for this work. Terms of the RFP reserve the right for the commission to extend the service contract for as many as 2 additional 12-month periods if both parties agree and funds are made available for that purpose, for a potential total estimated contract value of $1,199,700 over 3 years. Staff recommends approval.
I have a couple questions on this one too. Not as many as last time.
Yes, sir.
So KRG had the 4th lowest price. How big of a price difference are we talking about? Because I don't think I saw that anywhere detailed.
So Jerry, do you want to talk about the RFP evaluation process in totality there? And
my other question was related, and it comes down to where the criteria breakdown, the Exhibit A to this. Price is the least heavily weighted criterion, which struck me as odd.
Okay, yes, I'll attempt to address that. For general services, the city's policy has been for the last few years that we insert distinct, verifiable is not the correct word, but distinct evaluation criteria that we use. And in a service contract, you can award a project not based solely on price, lowest price, like as the case with construction repair. And that's up to the individual department to establish that criteria and the evaluation criteria and the percentages that they deem as most important in selecting a provider for this type of work. And in this particular case, most times, but not all times, as we recommend awards for this type of work, for these types of services, price is not the overriding criteria. As the case here, your experience, your qualifications is deemed to be more important in this case than price. And so honestly, I did not look at the the difference in the price in each of the individual bids, but in most cases, the decision for recommendation is based on the highest points scored. We have had occasions on some projects where the highest overall score did not seem to make the sense and was not awarded, but it's very rare. In most cases, it's the total highest points achieved and earned through the scoring system is who the award is made to. And the city's practice is to have 20% for the MWBE commitment and the 20% for location. Those are criteria that cannot be altered by city departments. That's dictated by the mayor and city council.
It's just strange. This must be a unique area of, choosing of contract selection where the price is the least important factor.
Mr. Charles, this is not, so, well, no, I disagree with that. I mean, when you hire a law firm, do you want the cheapest or the best is another way to say that. So there's this divide in city government between construction repair services, which are, whether it's right or wrong, viewed more as a hard bid, as WSFC said, and then professional and other services, which could be this project or consulting engineering or legal or other ones that typically the experience has been to choose. And then, well, I mean, I guess, Jerry, there's not even this one. There's also some where we don't even ask for prices and then we negotiate. So there's a third one.
That's correct.
But it's just the, in certain instances, this does give staff the flexibility to go with, you could call it lowest best, as opposed to just lowest.
Right. Okay.
And if I could add one last thing, in the criteria that was used for this project, manpower commitment was one of the criteria chosen by staff, city staff. And just for that very sake, we need to know for certain that they have the manpower that can get out and do this work. Someone could shoot ballpark a low price, but doesn't have enough manpower to accomplish what we need to have taken place.
Right.
And a little point of history here is KRG, has been doing a lot of work in terms of what's called our CSIP program. So there is a wealth of experience working with them, and I think generally good experience. So that as you can see about the scoring, evidently was weighed with a stronger preference than, I mean, I don't think you want to go spendthrift with them, but as long as they're in market, then some of the other criteria overweights the price.
Okay. I apologize if I derailed things.
No, these are good questions. You should have seen when Hugh and Alan joined. I mean, gosh, it was, oh my gosh.
We're still asking questions.
Charles, I hope it makes you feel better. He's absolutely correct.
Hugh, you got to own it, man.
Okay, move on to item number 6, which is consideration of resolution awarding a contract for easement maintenance. Utilities field operations needs a vendor to mechanically remove vegetation to restore access to utility easements and to chemically treat the easements to prevent vegetation from growing after cleaning. This work is to take place on Winston-Salem County Utilities off-street utility easements and rights of way within Forsyth County. The purchasing department received 3 proposals for this work on August 17th, 2020. One proposal did not have all the required forms and was deemed non-responsive. After the proposals were evaluated by a panel of city staff, it is recommended that a contract for utility easement maintenance be awarded to Carolina Cleaning and Restoration, LLC, in the estimated annual amount of $246,985. Yes. Terms of the RFP reserve the right for the commission to extend this service contract for as many as 2 additional 12-month periods. If both parties agree and funds are made available for that purpose, for a potential total estimated contract value of $740,955. Moving to item 7, which is consideration of a resolution awarding a purchase order for a roll-off truck. The Solid Waste Division needs to purchase a roll-off truck as a scheduled replacement for vehicle number 66226, which is used to pull full containers of waste from the citizens drop-off area to the working face for disposal. The replacement will be purchased through TransSource, Inc. of Greensboro, who was awarded a contract for this type of equipment by the state of North Carolina. And Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities is authorized to purchase off of that contract per state statute. It is recommended that a purchase order be awarded to TransSource, Inc. for a 2021 Mack Granite chassis roll-off truck at a total cost of $168,845 per the specified North Carolina state contract. The FY21 capital equipment budget includes sufficient funds for this purchase, which will be financed through the North Carolina Municipal Leasing Corporation. Item 8 is consideration of a resolution awarding a purchase order for a mini excavator. The Utilities Field Operations Division needs to purchase a new mini excavator with a brush cutter attachment. This acquisition was identified as a Year 4 initiative in the Collection System Improvement Program to improve crew production, and will also assist in providing access to utility easements and in performing emergency and routine repairs to water and wastewater infrastructure. The equipment will be purchased from the local Caterpillar distributor through Sourcewell, a cooperative purchasing group who was awarded a contract for this type of equipment, and from which Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities is authorized to purchase from per state statute. It is recommended that a purchase order be awarded to Carolina Tractor and Equipment Company for a Caterpillar mini excavator with brush cutter attachment at a total cost of $128,825 per the specified Sourcewell contract. The FY21 capital equipment budget includes sufficient funds for this purchase, which will be financed through the North Carolina Municipal Leasing Corporation. Item 9 is consideration of a resolution awarding a purchase order for a compact track loader. Utilities Field Operations needs to replace vehicle number 6189, a 2007 John Deere skid steer, due to age, high usage, and excessive repair costs. Replacement of this equipment will assist in providing better access to utility easements, as well as being used for repairs to the water and wastewater infrastructure. This equipment will also be purchased from the local Caterpillar distributor through a Sourcewell contract, which Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities is authorized to purchase from per state statute. It is recommended that a purchase order be awarded to Carolina Tractor and Equipment Company for a Caterpillar compact track loader with mulcher attachment at a total cost of $125,900 per the specified Sourcewell contract. The FY21 capital equipment budget includes sufficient funds for this purchase and will be financed through the North Carolina Municipal Leasing Corporation.
I have a question on those two items.
Yes, sir.
Are those enclosed cabs on both of those pieces, the mini hoe and the track loader?
That is an excellent question.
Well,
I believe so. I believe so.
Well, I've got both of those pieces of equipment, and if they're not enclosed cab, they're dangerous to use without it. I just want to make that statement for us.
Yeah, I'll confirm, but I believe so. You know, especially the skid steer, we're going to be mulching.
Well, they're both of them. They're both wonderful pieces, but anytime they'll throw brush back at you from 50 foot and 100 foot away, so you need an enclosed cab.
I'll confirm.
Okay.
Okay. Item number 10 is consideration of a resolution approving a purchase order to Cabot Norrit Activated Carbon as a sole source vendor. Staff is requesting approval to purchase odor control activated carbon for the Elledge wastewater treatment plant from Cabot Norrit Activated Carbon as a sole source item in the amount of $37,440 in order to maintain system design and specifications. Cabot Norrit Activated Carbon is the authorized vendor for this product, which is used in the odor scrubbers at the plant and was identified as the preferred odor reducing media during the design of the Elledge Headworks project. This purchase does fall under the state statute provisions for sole source procurement, and staff recommends approval. Moving on to item 11, which is consideration of a resolution approving an instrumentation staff augmentation contract with CITI LLC. The Utilities Instrumentation and Controls Group is responsible for maintenance and calibration of all instrumentation and control systems for the water and wastewater treatment plants and facilities. Current staffing levels continue to be inadequate to meet the needs of the organization due to vacancies and the inability to fill positions with qualified candidates. In June of 2017, the Commission approved CITI LLC as the Utilities Preferred System Integrator for professional instrumentation and control services. This award included the option to extend the contract up to 3 years through the current fiscal year of FY21. These specialty services are needed to provide programming and modifications to the various control and monitoring systems at water and wastewater facilities. In August of 2017, the Commission approved an instrumentation staff augmentation contract with CITI with the option to extend the contract 2 additional years through FY20. And in order to get both the integrations contract and the staff augmentation contract on the same schedule, staff requests approval to extend the contract with CITI for staff augmentation for an additional year. A new request for qualifications will be issued in the spring of 2021 to reevaluate vendors that can provide instrumentation and control system integrations. With this contract, CITI will continue to provide instrumentation and controls resident engineer that will be capable of providing services as directed by the Utilities Instrumentation and Controls Manager. CITI has submitted a monthly rate proposal for these services in the amount of $12,794 plus any reimbursable expenses. Based on the monthly rate submitted by CITI for these services, a contract in the estimated amount of $153,530 is needed to cover instrumentation service needs through fiscal year FY21. Fiscal year 21. Staff requests approval to extend the contract with CITI for staff augmentation for an additional year in order to align both the integrations and any potential future staff augmentation contracts under the same schedule. Staff recommends approval of an instrumentation staff augmentation contract with CITI LLC in the amount of $153,530 for FY21. Funding for this contract is available in the current FY21 operating budget.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. So anyone have any questions on agenda item 11?
I do want to add, Mr. Day, I did confirm item 8 and 9 are going to be in closed cabs.
That's very good because it's a dangerous piece if it ain't. It's good equipment.
And this is Marilena Johnson-Goodhold. I did just want to add one quick piece of information for Commissioner Wilson there on the selection of firms. So I just wanted to comment briefly like on the selection of professional services, engineering, architecture, construction management, risk surveying, that kind of thing. So when you make a selection, you're looking at the competence and the qualifications of the firms. Without regard to price other than unit fee at the initial stage. And the reason you do that is because when you have an engineering design or when you have an architectural design for vertical construction, you want to make sure that the design is going to be good, that the building's going to stand. And so you're looking first at demonstrated competence and qualification. You can look at unit price. And then once you've selected your firms on that basis, then you negotiate the price with the firm, with the best qualified firm. And so that's the process there. And then for general services, it's as Jerry Bates mentioned to you too. But I just wanted to throw that in there too for your information.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, certainly.
Courtney, are we where we can begin to consider motions?
Yes, we are.
Okay, Commission members, we have 11 agenda items on our docket. The approval of minutes, operational items, and then the rest are finance. Are there any items that a commission member would care to pull from a consent agenda motion?
Mr. Tuttle, Dwayne
Yes,
Long, I need to recuse myself from item number 7, please.
Okay, thank you. Can, Marilena, do we have to consider that item separately, or can we note the recusal and a consent agenda?
Marilyn, are you there?
I'll go ahead and answer that quickly. Technically, what you should do is take a vote to recuse a commissioner from a vote, and then you could vote on the balance. And because you had that approval on that item, you could still do a consent agenda.
Damon,
So
that was more confusing to me.
Well, what you do is make a motion to recuse Commissioner Long from item number 7, or whatever item it is. Take a vote on that. And if that's approved, then you could take a vote on the entire consent agenda, and Commissioner Long's vote would just not count on the item that he was approved to be recused from.
Got it. Okay, I think I've got that. Any other commission members either need recusal or want to pull any agenda item from a consent agenda vote?
I am so sorry, commissioners. Did you hear me when I was speaking? I wasn't sure if I was muted or unmuted.
Well, you sounded a lot like Damon Duquesne when you were talking.
Did you hear what I said about the basis for recusal and voting and excusing the commissioner from voting?
No.
Negative.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was speaking to myself then. Okay.
Yeah, Marilena, why don't you go ahead? So what I said was we need a motion and a vote to recuse him. I failed to mention the basis for the recusal.
Okay.
So they make a motion. Yeah, go ahead. You have the floor.
And I'm sorry. I think what I did is I took you off speakerphone, and I thought I had unmuted myself, so I didn't hear that you were speaking. I only heard myself speaking. I'm sorry. So the commission has bylaws which mimic a statute, 16875, which says that a commission, basically in this case a commissioner, can be excused from voting if the item concerns a consideration of the commissioner's own financial interest or their ethical or official conduct, or if it concerns a matter on which they're prohibited from voting. So if one of those is the case, then the commission can vote to excuse the commissioner from voting. But if that doesn't happen, all those circumstances I mentioned, then the commissioner's failure to vote is recorded as an affirmative vote. So I didn't hear what the basis was for the recusal. I guess it wasn't discussed.
I didn't give the basis, but let me do that now.
Okay.
I socialize with the owners of TransSource, and I think there would be appearances of a good buddy system going here with my vote in the affirmative, which is what I would do.
I see. Okay. Well, in that case, I might want to ponder it a bit longer, but since needs must right now, I think if we could take a vote to excuse you from voting, and in any event, if you simply fail to vote, your vote would be recorded in the affirmative in any case. So it doesn't seem like, as a practical matter, it's going to make much difference. So let's go ahead and take the vote to excuse the commissioner from voting.
Mr. Chairman.
But yes.
Second.
Motion that we excuse Mr. Long from voting on item number 7.
This is Commissioner Curtis, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion and or any other members need a similar recusal, so we can do it at once if anybody else. Okay, hearing no discussion or no similar request, I think I've got to do the roll call vote. So yes. I will do so. This is a motion to excuse Commissioner Long from voting on agenda item number 7. Mr. Curtis, yea or nay?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Aye.
Ms. Hines? Ms. Hines?
Let me see if I can unmute her.
I will come back to Ms.
There she is. There she is.
I think I heard a yes. Mr. Jernigan?
Aye.
Mr. Long, I don't even know if you can vote on this.
Oh, no. No.
Okay, Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Younger?
Yes.
And Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, so that motion passes. I would then ask again, any commission members have any items to pull from a consent agenda? And if not, I would entertain a motion for consent agenda items 1 through 11.
Make a motion, move approval for consent agenda items number 1 through 11. This is Chris Parker.
Second. This is Wesley Curtis.
So we had a second and a third. Mr. Griffin and Mr. Curtis both seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, roll call vote in favor of the consent agenda. Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Hines?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Long? I think you can vote on this one.
I forgot I had to unmute. Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Younger?
Yes.
And Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Okay. Courtney, I think we're done with that. Back to you if we, or do we have time for CIP or no?
Well, I think since we're at 2:30, we will just, we updated you on the CIP last, let me stop sharing the screen real quick. We'll just wait and do another update in October. So we'll go ahead and call the, ask for you to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. But I did want to say first that I do really appreciate all the good questions. I think there's a lot of good discussion. And, you know, I do think it's good to hold us accountable and, you know, ask us those questions. So thank you so much to everyone that does that.
Cool. Any commission member have anything they'd like to bring before the staff or the commission? Mr. Day, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Let's make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Second, that's right.
Okay, I think I've got to do the whole roll call vote again. So hold on a second.
Please.
Okay, so this is the motion to adjourn the September 14th meeting. Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Always on the motion.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Hines?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Younger?
Yes.
And Mr. Wilson?
I'd better say yes.
Yeah. Hey, folks, sorry I'm on in my car right now, but I'm parked and safe. But sorry I had to leave 10 minutes early. I hope you all have a great week. Well done to both the commission and the staff for today's meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good week.